Hi, welcome back to Rise. We are looking at how do we rise above the level of mediocrity that so many get trapped by. In a previous episode, we talked about the fact that we're influenced heavily by the data we put into our lives. And in an episode before that, we talked about this incredible number of hours each day that we are influenced or under the bombardment of some type of media. And so last time we looked at data in, data out. Today I want to challenge you with this idea. Thoughts in, thoughts out. Thoughts in, thoughts out. Let's consider media in general. How much of what is distributed today would meet the standards that the Apostle Paul outlines in Philippians 4:8? If you're not familiar or you don't remember it, let me read it to you. It says this: "Finally, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there's any virtue and if there's anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things." The phrase there, meditate on these things, is translated as think about, dwell on, consider, fill your mind with, keep your thoughts on. Similar phrases show up in a variety of your English translations of Scripture. The phrases, while they might be a little bit different, all get us to focus on one thing. Am I filling my mind each day with things that are true, noble, just, pure, lovely, of good report, virtuous, and praiseworthy? So here's what you have to remember. Our minds only have the input we give them in order to process thoughts. I'll say it again. Our mind only has the input we give it to process thoughts. See, so when you start thinking about anything, what happens? Well, those thoughts start coming back and you start drawing into this computer that God has allowed us to have in our heads, and we start bringing back information that we have input into that information. And so the things that are there are we allowing our minds to focus on things that are true, noble, just, pure. You know the list, we just read it. How likely is it that we'll be able to think through and think out things if we're not taking the time to dwell on the good things that God tells us to dwell upon? You see the struggle there, right? It's not that you're creating the input that's coming in. It really comes down to what are you thinking about and how are you processing the input that comes in. See, because in my life, if I listen to something that's garbage, I'll say that's garbage. And basically do my best to ignore it or forget about it or just dump it, delete it somehow from my gray matter. What I want to dwell on, because that's what Scripture says, are the things that are noble, good, pure, just, virtuous, those kind of things. Because when you let your mind dwell on those, you think on those things, and those things begin to shape your thought processes, and all of a sudden, what comes out is reflective of the thoughts you're allowing to stay in. And I think in the Philippians passage, we find the key of the thoughts that come in. You dwell on those things that have value. And so that's my challenge to you today. You can't stop the fact that you're going to be bombarded by stuff. You're not going to stop the fact that there's a lot of information coming your way. You're not going to stop the fact that we're heavily influenced by media. So the challenge is, how do you think about it? And will you dwell on the things that line up with what Scripture says to dwell on? Because if you do, then your perspective on life is going to be better and you'll rise above the level of mediocrity around you. We're going to talk about this again in our next episode, but think about what you're doing. Put some brains into your faith. I'll join you next time.